There are films that quietly remind you that the person you've become isn't always the person you were meant to be. Now Voyager is one of those films. Released in 1942 and starring the incomparable Bette Davis, it tells the story of Charlotte Vale, a woman buried under the weight of a domineering mother who never wanted her and made sure she knew it. What unfolds is a journey towards independence, self worth, and a kind of happiness that doesn't always look the way anyone expects it to. What struck me about the film is just how ahead of its time it feels. There are frank discussions about mental health, about the damages a possessive parent can inflict, and about what it truly means to care for another person. It challenges you to rethink what fulfillment looks like, and to recognize that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply allow yourself to bloom. And speaking of blooming, much like Charlotte, coffee needs the right conditions and patience to fully develop, which is why today we're drinking a beautiful Brazilian coffee. Brazil is the heartland of coffee production, and when the beans are given the care they deserve, you get something rich, smooth, and deeply rewarding. It felt like the perfect pairing for a film about transformation. And joining me today is the wonderful Danielle Aubuchon, and I'm thrilled to have her here as we dig into this classic. So pour yourself a cup, settle in, and welcome to Real Beans.
Cheers.
Yes, welcome. Cheers, Danielle. Good to have you back on the show. We're back from Fifth Avenue and we're in Boston now with Now Voyager.
Yes, we are. We're traveling all over the Eastern Seaboard. Yes.
That's right. uh, yeah, so today we're drinking, you and I have different types of Brazilian coffees. Why don't you explain which company you have, which brand you have of the beans?
I'm drinking Pete's Brazilian blend, and Pete's is a favorite in our household. And I I've never had this blend before, but you suggested it. My husband found it, bless him. It was hard to find. And we had it this morning and it was amazing. I thought, wow, it's very smooth. It's very subtle. It's a medium roast, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's chocolatey sweet, but it's so smooth. It's hard to kind of, do you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
lovely. It's not acidic. It's not anything. It's perfect. Even my husband was like, "Hey, this is great. This is great.
Uh,
What are we having?"
and that is one of the with Brazilian coffee. One of the notes that you can get out of it is chocolate. So it's very light chocolate in feel. So you got that note out of it. Mine is called Groundworks coffee, and this one's
Mm.
called Organic Black Gold, and this
Ooh.
has Brazil beans inside of it. And mine, when I was creating it for if case anyone sees this, you have a Chemex here, which is always a fun pomp and circumstance way of making coffee. But when it
Very
was
cool.
brewing, I was smelling hazelnuts, a little bit of
Oh, interesting.
hazelnuts, and
Mm.
that's another note of Brazilian coffee is hazelnut. The combination of where the beans come from will play effect into the notes in getting the chocolate notes. And Brazil
Yeah.
is has cocoa,
Right.
and then the citrus is always something that can come into
That's nice.
effect with, yeah, not it's not as citrusy as other blends that I've had, so it's more
Hmm.
subtle in that respect, which is
Hmm.
Brazil Brazilian beans can be more subtle. Mine
Uh-huh.
is a darker roast than yours, so it's a bit
Oh, it is. Okay.
stronger in that
Uh-huh.
respect.
What I love about it is the subtle, and I do taste the chocolate, but it's again very subtle. We've tasted stronger chocolatey kind of coffees before together. Um, there is a nut. Maybe it is hazelnut. There's something nutty about this one, and I'm not sure because it's the medium roast, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Brazilian nuts,
and
perhaps.
yeah, nutty is one of the ways of describing it. 'Cause, you may not be able to pick out which flavor
Right,
or
right.
which type of nut it could be, but it could be a combination of uh, of anything: Brazilian nuts,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
macadamia, and hazelnut. Making it in the Chemex, the acidity of the coffee goes down a bit because you're not. you're able to control the water pouring of it, so it goes a little longer. Plus, it lasts longer than the drip coffee maker, so it
Oh,
continues to go through the filter much faster and doesn't keep that acidic nature that a
mm,
coffee drip maker, like an automatic
mhm,
machine, can bring.
mhm, mhm. That would be I would love to try one of those because I do like a dark roast. It's just too strong because we have the
It's
drip.
very
It's
strong.
just too
Yep.
strong.
And
Yeah.
it is the darker roast is stronger with you can I can definitely taste the strong coffee with
Mhm.
the doing the chemics because it
Uh-huh.
is pulling more flavor and more balance
Mm,
and more
I love that.
uh, feel to it. So you do if you're not a strong coffee person, I would suggest putting milk into it if you
Mhm,
because see, I
mhm.
drink it, of course, black, so I'm
Oh,
getting the huge uh,
powerful.
feel and
Full.
taste, the full
Mhm,
body of this
mhm.
coffee, and it's very smooth. And you were saying yours was very smooth as well, so
It
it's very
Yes,
smooth coffee. It's just to
it's my
give our
favorite.
yeah,
It's now become a fast favorite, actually.
yeah, it's a great blend and a great bean.
Mhm,
And as I was doing some research on Brazil, Brazil is one of the most common beans you'll find out there because it's still
mm,
top
mm.
producing country that produces coffee. They say that it first arrived in Brazil in 1727 from French Guiana. It was mainly consumed by European colonists locally, but then as demand grew in Europe and in the United States, exports started to ramp up. And then in 1910, Brazil was growing about 80% of the world's coffee. So,
Wow. Oh,
and
wow.
as time went on and more places, more countries started to develop their own coffees, and that amount started to get down to more about nowadays about 30%. It's
Mhm,
still at the top of the producers that are
mhm,
out there. And as we were discussing, the taste, textures, and notes are earthy, spicy, nutty, sweet. It's also low in
mhm.
acidity, which makes for a good blend foundation.
Oh,
Another tidbit too, you may find Brazil beans used in espresso blends. So your espresso may have beans from Brazil, which makes sense because espresso can be a stronger
very much so.
coffee. So
Very much so.
if they're roasting it to be a darker roast, then you'll find that it pulls much stronger flavor with the espresso bean.
Mm. Which I do love an espresso from time to time.
Yeah, so I'm glad you enjoyed the coffee
Oh,
because you
I
know it's
love it.
not everyone's cup of tea in terms of or cup of coffee
Mhm.
as as others may be, and yeah,
I'd like to try the one you have too, just
yeah,
to see, just to compare them side by side and just taste, cup cup by cup. Yeah, I love it, and I love that it's organic as well.
yeah. Groundwork is a very good company. They're
Yeah,
very much organic. I think all of their coffees are organic or close to
I love
organic as
that.
you can get,
Mhm.
and they're also easy to find in grocery stores too. I found this in
Nice.
Bristol Farms,
Okay.
but I've seen it in at pavilions or Gelson's, and
Oh,
even uh, like Sprouts would likely have it
oh,
because
okay.
they usually have a lot of organic blends of coffee if you're looking for something
Mhm.
organic or fair trade. Um,
Yeah, I like both.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
really nice cup, especially
yeah, it is.
for morning or an afternoon pick me up.
For an afternoon this is, like I said, decadent for me because I have my 1 cup in the morning, but today I'm splurging. Ah!
Exactly. Now that we've had our coffee break,
That's
now
right, yes.
we can
Let's dive
jump
in.
into one of my favorite films and romantic films of the 1940s, and also my favorite Bette Davis film in terms of her performance, which we'll dive
Yeah,
into a little bit later.
yes.
Um, but first, I'll give a little context to the film. It was filmed in 1942, directed by Irving Rapper, who was a big prominent director around that time period, did a lot of women's pictures, as they were called. And this Now Voyager is considered a woman's picture, kind of a soap opera, weepy tearjerker of a film.
Right, right.
The film stars Bette Davis, the wonderful Paul Henreid, and of
Mm.
course the brilliant Claude Rains, who you may
Mm.
know from Casablanca, and also the redoubtable Gladys Cooper,
Yes.
who plays Charlotte Vale's mother, Mrs.
Mhm.
Henry Vale.
Love it.
And both Bette Davis and Gladys Cooper were nominated for Best Actress and Supporting Actress. And then another key element that makes this film work really well is the musical score by the great Max Steiner, who
Yes.
did multiple Bette Davis films
Yep.
and is a huge staple around the 30s, 40s, and 50s in terms of those grandiose, majestic
Scores.
scores that kind of sometimes would overpower the performance at the moment.
Or enhance.
Or enhance. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
There's a famous quote from Bette Davis where she was working on the film Dark Victory, which was made
Mhm.
before Now Voyager, and there's a moment where she has to ascend the staircase to go to her bedroom, and she got about halfway up while she was rehearsing, turned around to the director and says, "Is Max Steiner going to write the score?" And
Oh,
she
that's hilarious.
and she said, "Either I'm walking up those stairs or Max Steiner is walking up the stairs."
That's great. I've never heard that. I love that.
Well, Max Steiner did write the score for it,
Yeah.
so he ended up ascending the
Walking
stairs
up
with
the
Betty.
stairs. I love did Irving Rapper direct Victory as well?
Well, he did some other Betty Davis films,
He did.
not as notable as Now Voyager. There was one in the 40s called Deception,
Yeah,
and
right.
Another Man's Poison. He also did The Corn is Green, which is another Betty Davis film. But still, he made this what I consider a really important film for a strong woman,
Absolutely.
and also directed Betty Davis into a powerhouse performance that is very unconventional and unlike her usual
Yes.
um, self, because she's usually playing, while she plays strong women, they're usually either, one might say, evil, like in the Little
Mhm. Mhm.
Foxes,
Little Foxes for
or
sure.
or
Or
she's
even the
very
letter.
strong.
Yeah.
The letter, she's very
Mhm.
strong-willed and stubborn in many of her
Mhm.
pictures in terms of like getting
Mhm.
what she wants, whereas here
Absolutely.
she's more subtle in the way
I
that she portrays Charlotte Vale.
I
um,
was just gonna say that,
and
nuanced was the word that
yep,
came to mind. A lot of it was so inside, but you could just read it in her eyes, in her face. It was brilliant.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And as the song goes, Betty Davis eyes, she can
Yeah.
portray everything from happiness to sadness to even to her breakdown scene that she has,
Yeah.
which is a very important moment in the film. Very hard to watch.
It was, yeah. And hurt too, but I don't wanna jump ahead to those
But
scenes where she
yeah,
fought. Yes.
we'll get to that
Yeah.
because there's a lot of scenes that we're going to dive into that are very prominent and also became huge in cultural
Iconic.
phenomenons, iconic
Yes.
scenes.
Yep.
Yeah, and what, as I was watching this, my rewatching, um, I had this thought about how many different topics are wrapped up in this film in terms of, and the themes, because you've got the domineering mother and the effects it
Right.
has on a person and their
On a child.
independence, the mental
Mhm.
health struggles when
Exactly.
somebody is just been beaten down so much that they've gone
Mhm.
into despair and there's no hope and they don't know what to do, and they try to find that, as Claude Rains' Dr. Jackwith says, you come to a fork in the road and I help guide you to which fork to go through. um,
Right.
and then you also
Right.
have the fake stigma that family has. Mrs. Henry Vale's are very much like, I'm the Vales, we have to maintain this, but I only had you as my to be my companion, I never wanted
Mm.
you, but you're my companion.
Brilliant.
um,
Yeah.
and also big on making your own decisions and being independent and allowing yourself to be able to become the person you want to be, as opposed to what
Mhm.
society dictates that you
Mhm.
should be, or Mrs. Henry
Right.
Vale
Or a
dictates you
parent,
to be.
or a parent, or
Exactly,
any family member, especially for a woman at that time, and women in general.
exactly.
But yeah.
And probably another extremely difficult subject matter is the fact that the film dives into unwanted children and how
Yeah.
they are forgotten in families. And this
Yeah.
happens, as we know,
Yeah.
has it still happens. And this film was a bit ahead of its time, as it
Very much
were,
so.
talking about a
Yeah.
lot of these things because it was a very no one no, you wouldn't talk about such things. All family
Mm-mm.
loves family, and we
Mhm.
all know that
Mhm.
there can be times where a child was unexpected and they weren't expecting
Mhm.
that to happen, and sometimes there can be regrets and also like animosity against the child for
Mhm.
appearing because
From the
it now
mother.
you from the mother,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so it causes a lot of spiraling for the child who is
Yeah.
just was there. I mean, they it's not like you're asked to
Didn't
come
choose
and be born.
They didn't choose
And
it. Yeah.
exactly, so they deserve the love. And we have not only Charlotte Vale, but in we come to find out when she meets Jerry, played by Paul Henreid, he has a daughter who the mother doesn't want, was an unexpected child, and she's become
Right.
depressed and sad and will not blossom at all.
Is not
So
is not
we come
functioning pretty much.
we
Yeah.
come we come to meet her later on in the film,
Right.
which is also kind of a saving grace for Charlotte Vale's character to
Mhm.
become something
Mhm.
that she's wanted. So
Exactly. Yeah. There is that parallel that we'll get to between, Jerry's wife and Charlotte's mother, very much
exactly.
so. And
And
then, Tina and also Charlotte. Yeah.
so what else? Other impressions did you have? Like I just went through a bunch of.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I know this film really well, and it was my beloved godfather's favorite Bette Davis film, and so it always makes me think of him, and he's the one that pretty much said, "You've got to see this if you haven't seen it." And I've seen it so many times. But as I mentioned to you, interesting how it always left me in the past, at least in my memory, with a feeling of kind of sadness at the end, which I'm not going to get to right away. And this week, it's the first time with all the craziness going on that I saw a really happy ending, potentially. And we'll talk about
right.
what our perceptions of that was. So I just so enjoyed seeing it again, and I always love Claude Rains. He, to me, is one of the greatest actors of that time. Talk about subtle, talk about nuance, talk about inside humor. When he comes down the stairs after first meeting Charlotte and takes a look at the mother, ooh, a
Yeah,
chill goes up your spine. He doesn't
yeah.
have
It's
to say a
very
word. He doesn't have to say a word, and you know what he's
and,
thinking and what he's going to say.
and
Yeah.
and he's so calm
Mm.
throughout the entire thing.
Always.
He
Yes.
never gets. He's always observing. You can see his
Yeah.
character observing everything around. What is Charlotte's niece? How she treats Charlotte?
Charlotte.
How the
Mhm.
sister-in-law treats her? How her mother
Mhm.
treat? He sees everything that's going on in this. Um,
Like a wonderful therapist or psychiatrist would. I mean,
Well,
he's got it
exactly.
down.
And
Yeah.
when I'll just jump into one of the scenes that I particularly love at the beginning is when
Mhm.
Charlotte is giving a tour of the house and takes Dr.
Yeah.
Jackwith up to her room, and he notices that
Yeah.
she's been making these ivory boxes that are like
Yeah.
beautiful to look at, and he takes an interest in them and says they're beautiful, which then helps Charlotte be like, "Oh, this is something I'd never had anybody
Yeah.
compliment my work before." And uh,
She
then she
starts to open up.
offers she opens
Mhm.
up and offers him one of the boxes, and he's very grateful for that. But you get a sense of genuine gratefulness, and
Mhm.
that it doesn't he's not phoning it in terms of like just
Mm,
pretending
mm,
to be interested. He's really like, wow, these are some
impressed.
amazing boxes.
Right.
um
And she
and
she
so
just starts to open a little bit, like a little bit of a door, which is so beautiful, and then when she snaps it shut in that scene, is when
yep,
she says, "You can't have this particular box," and he's like, "Oh," she said, "Because my mother came into the room when I was doing it, and it's ruined because she got
right.
so nervous that she ruined it." So it's like, "Oh god." Another
Well,
clue
then
to who this woman is.
exactly that nervousness of like, and especially when you're really trying to be meticulous on creating something, you need that focus.
Mhm.
So if somebody comes
Mhm.
in who already makes you nervous as it is,
Yes.
it just
Right.
ruins the whole feel, and you can't get that back for a while until you get that inspiration again to try
Mhm.
again. Um,
And if the mother came in, she would say something negative about it. So, that's
Absolutely.
just who
Why are
she
you
is.
wasting your time on this?
Belittle it in some way.
You should be out looking for a husband. You need to be taking care of me. That's I can imagine her like
Right.
in her spare time when her mother's sleeping, just going and working, knowing that this is the time she can be herself and alone and
Right.
um,
Right.
not deal
Creative.
with the outside craziness.
Yeah.
Um,
Pressure.
yeah, so
Constant pressure.
it's a very beautiful scene, and Claude Rains, as you
Yeah.
say, he's a brilliant actor in terms of a wonderful character actor who's been in so many films and is so
Mhm.
always so funny and so genuine.
Mhm.
Um,
Just
and
real. Talk about authentic. Yeah.
in this, he's very much a friend to Charlotte Vale throughout the entire thing, and he's there to help her and guide her,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
knows that something is wrong and that he can help her. Only he can help her with taking her to Cascade, which is this rest retreat for people
Mhm.
who have had nervous breakdowns or just need to get away from it all because the stress
Right.
is so big, you've just kind of shut yourself down.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so uh, after the box scene and Claude Rains comes down, we then get the confrontation scene with Charlotte coming down the stairs. And at this point, because we haven't mentioned it, Charlotte is a very dowdy, overweight
Mhm. Mhm.
spinster with glasses and a kind of a Victorian hairdo that's very conservative. And
Right.
she's
With
just not a
almost
she's
like,
very
yeah, and also she has these, kind of unkempt eyebrows that are not
and
attractive and to her beautiful eyes and face. It makes her just look very, like you say,
and
dowdy and hidden.
yeah, very much. Yeah, very, very much like the conservative. I'm just keeping you locked up in this, like, so
Mhm.
you're never going to land a husband because I mean,
You're mine.
society
That's right.
does sometimes dictate that you have to be a beautiful person in order to, find
Attract a mate.
a partner.
Right, right.
But in this case, because of the story that it's telling, you
Mhm.
start off with Charlotte being a very plain frump,
Yes.
to use
Right,
lack of a better word.
right, right.
And she doesn't want to be like that, but because of how years have treated her, that's the only thing she knows, and that's what keeps her safe.
Mhm.
So we get her coming down, and her niece appears. Now, the
Ugh.
niece is a very she's a young woman who is just likes to pick on Charlotte nonstop,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's because of years of the family picking on her
That's right.
over and over and over
It's
again.
it's become like sport, and she's a little ditzy. She's an insensitive little ditzy, spoiled rotten,
Yep.
you know.
And
Her mother's wonderful, but not her. Yeah.
well, and I let's jump into that. Lisa, who is played by Ilka
Mhm.
Chase. Um, she's the other person in Charlotte's life who actually has an interest in Charlotte and
Yes.
wants to care for, has compassion for her. She's the one who brings Dr. Jackwith
Right.
to see Charlotte because
Mhm.
she knows that since she's an in-law, she's an outsider as well, and she can
Mhm.
see what's happening inside. And
Right.
she doesn't. She wants the best for Charlotte.
Mhm.
Maybe not. She tries her best to like stop the taunting and the fun, making fun, but it's
Mhm.
she's not always as pushy as she probably could be to stand up for Charlotte. So we
Mhm.
get this buildup of, oh, Charlotte, you have a hangover. What are you pouring tea that way for?
Oh,
And then
the niece. Yeah. Ugh.
that causes Charlotte to break down, saying, "You like to torture me. You always like to
Mhm.
torture me." And then she runs out
Mhm.
in just
Mhm.
tears. And of course, the only thing that Mrs. Henry Vale, can say is that no member of the family has had a breakdown, rather than like,
Yeah.
"Oh, my poor daughter, she needs help." It's like nobody's
Right.
had a breakdown. This is
And aren't you
awful for
well, and as she's wanting at some point, she even says to her, "Aren't you ashamed?"
Exactly. There's all
Isn't
that
that
shame
awful?
being put on. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Ugh, that
And
puritanical, ugh, just awful, nasty, abusive crap.
but because Dr. Jackwith knows exactly what's going on, he
Mhm.
says, "Well, someone's having a breakdown now," and then goes
That's
to
right.
Charlotte, and Charlotte is pleading, "Please help me, doctor. I need help." And he
Mhm.
takes her to Cascade.
Mhm.
And during Cascade's time, she's starting to learn how to weave. She's doing all
Mm,
sorts of relaxations,
right.
losing weight, getting herself feeling
Therapy.
better again, therapy.
Mhm.
Um, and in comes the sister-in-law to come visit to see how Charlotte's doing.
Yeah.
Again, because she's much involved in Charlotte's life and wants to
Yeah.
help her. And both
She's a
she
true
and Dr.
advocate. She's her advocate, really.
Exactly. She's the only
A
advocate that
hero.
she has, and I think
Right.
Charlotte knows that too, because
Uh-huh.
she never has anything evil or mean to say about or upsetting to
No.
say about Lisa. And
No.
but Lisa and Dr. Jackwith have a scheme, and this time, because Charlotte has been doing so well, they've decided to send her off on a cruise down to Rio de
Right.
Janeiro.
Right.
Um, and this is where Charlotte emerges, and we have this iconic moment where everyone's waiting for this woman to appear, and Charlotte suddenly makes an appearance, and she's in these lovely heels, gorgeous dress, and a big
Big
hat.
hat. Yeah.
And then she looks up, the camera just pans right up to her. She just looks up, and you see her has become this butterfly.
Yeah.
Charlotte is no longer this dowdy spinster. She's become a
Mhm.
full-fledged butterfly. And
However, she's still, at that point, not come out and blossomed as Charlotte yet. She's going under the name of Renee Beauchamp, who was somebody who she took the place of on the cruise, right? Who was a friend
exactly.
with her wardrobe and everything else. So
But
that's what's
and
interesting.
this is the first step for her, and she's already made her first step by coming out, but she's still very much hidden away because she still can't be herself yet.
Right.
And but you can put on the clothes. It's almost like the My Fair Lady syndrome, where you can change the person's outfit, but you can't change the inside yet. um,
Exactly.
So she still has a long way to go in the way of becoming a full-fledged independent woman. And that is helped by when she meets Paul Henreid's character Jerry, who needs a companion to go sightsee and go
Mhm.
shopping. And
Mhm.
at first Charlotte is reluctant. I'm not going to go out. I'm going to stay on board. But then she
Mhm.
decides, she hears Dr. Jackwith's voice saying, do this, you can do this, you can do this, and her sister-in-law saying, you can do this, you can do this. And she says, I'd be glad to go
Mhm.
sightseeing with you, especially because we also come to find out that years previously she was on a cruise with her mother, and her mother wouldn't let her go do anything
I know
sightseeing
she
wise,
fell in
tourist
love.
wise.
She actually got engaged on that cruise, and she nixed the mother. Just nope, 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 nope.
But
Not that.
I did find it funny. Besides with that moment where she actually was be able to be herself, the whole thing of her mother, Mrs. Vale, saying, "We don't do touristy things. That's beneath us."
Oh my God. Right.
And so now she has a chance to say, "Well, now I can do something interesting and different besides sit on board and play
De-
bridge or
right.
just read a book
Right.
or."
Right.
Um,
Right.
and they go off and have this wonderful day of just sightseeing, shopping, and that evening when they get back to the boat, we start seeing some connection form between Jerry and Charlotte. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she's so grateful for this
Mm-hmm.
time because it's really helped her uh, start to come out of her shell. And then he asks her to come have drinks and dinner that evening, and she's like, "Well, I don't know." And then she said, "I'll think about it." And then all of a sudden later on we see her appear in a new outfit and a cloak, a cape that has a butterfly on it, talking speaking
But what
of
I
the
love is
metaphors
when
for a
she's getting
butterfly.
dressed, though, Ben, when she's getting dressed, uh, either Renee Beauchamp or Lisa has put these notes on to tell her how to dress. So it's like, now with these shoes, with this bag, with this jacket, with this dress, and she's like, "Am I an idiot?" She's kind of saying, "I know. What do they think I'm going to do?" But
But I think sometimes in especially when you haven't been able to
Yeah,
come out of your shell,
exactly.
you don't you need that guidance sometimes where
Sure.
somebody
Well,
you need
yeah.
that little help. It's not like saying you
Mhm.
must wear this. It's like you should use this with this. This will go well with this to help
Oh,
you
I
land
know.
this. Or,
Oh, absolutely, and it was done out of love, but she kinda took it like, "Come on, I'm not gonna wear my, Oxfords with an evening dress. I know better than that,"
right,
you know?
right, exactly. And
Yeah,
then we have a little comedic moment where Paul Henreid sees something pinned to the back of her cape,
one
and
of the
that has
notes.
to one of the notes, and that kind of forces Charlotte to have to explain
Mhm,
um, what
mhm,
she's there for, and but she's like, please don't mention this to anybody else. I'm still a work in progress. I'm still trying to get
mhm,
myself um,
mhm,
back to what I need to be, and that in turn, Paul Heinried's character is very much on her side and trying to
mhm,
help her blossom even more. And
mhm,
then, as expected, they start falling in love with each other. Now,
mhm,
the big hiccup is the fact that he's already married, has two
mhm,
children, so
mhm,
he's not available for Charlotte. So she knows that, but because this is like really something new for her, she's blossoming and blossoming and blossoming
mhm, mhm,
and understanding what true love can really be, and true
mhm,
compassion.
mhm.
And
And the
well,
thing that I love about what Paul Henri does as Jerry is from the time they meet, you can tell this man is a very sensitive soul.
yes,
And he picks up on a lot because I mean, there's another character on board that end up being friends of his, and the woman explains to, Charlotte about what his home life is like, but saying, "This man will always do the right thing. He is one of the last, you know, guys from the chivalrous era, but he'll never do the wrong thing, but he's a good man, and he's in a terrible situation." And
and
from the minute they got paired up, he listened to her, he paid attention to her, he was that. He's kind of a knight in shining armor in that way, and
right.
that's due to a wonderful performance by Paul Henri. He really
Oh,
brought that forward.
absolutely. He's such a a suave actor, very much
Yeah,
nuanced. And he's got the accent, which of course people are
there you
suckers
go.
for accents, which
Yes,
always
of course.
when you meet
Yeah,
somebody like that on a some sort of vacation, it's like a very dreamy fantasy moment
exotic.
there. But what I also like, you mentioned the friends of
Mhm,
Jerry, is the fact that
mhm.
they've taken Charlotte under their wing as well, and they accept
Absolutely.
Charlotte. So that also helps Charlotte progress with her
Yes,
confidence.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
but she also
Because
now understands
they can see what effect she's having on him, so it's sort of kind of a wonderful I guess, I don't know if you call it symbiotic, but I mean, they're both helping each other. They're in different parts of their lives, Jerry and Charlotte, but they're both helping each other open up and blossom.
exactly,
Yeah.
and so they're very good for each other, even if they're
Yeah.
not even though they're falling in love with each other, they both
Mhm.
know that it's not going to likely end up happening together, but you never know. And but we have this one of my favorite scenes in the movie is Charlotte is out on the balcony and Paul Hyde comes by, and
Oh, yeah.
he's basically telling her about what's happening in his life and meeting
Mhm.
Charlotte, and uh, she starts to think to herself and hear these words that have never been spoken to her before about love,
Mhm.
compassion, and then he says, "Darling," and
Yes. Yep.
she starts to break down crying, and he's like,
Yes.
"Darling, what is wrong?" And she says, "These are only tears of gratitude." And
Mhm.
but she's still very much hasn't
Yeah.
quite got her confidence built yet, but she's like an old maid's gratitude for the crumbs offered, and he says, "Don't talk like that." And then
Right.
nobody ever called me darling before, and
Right.
that's a very powerful moment because that's the first time they kiss.
Right.
And
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
it's a very touching moment because you're just like,
Mhm.
Charlotte is getting this love that she's always desperately desired, and then to hear it come from somebody who she loves and
Mhm.
admires, and uh,
Mhm.
just really really kind of pushes her towards the final blossom moment,
Yes.
where she's able to
And
start feeling like a woman again herself and
or a
making
woman
her own.
for the first time, really,
Exactly.
for the first
and
time. It's so moving. Yeah.
and it's a gorgeous moment.
Yeah, it
um
is. And it's not only a gorgeous moment emotionally, but I mean, just think about the art direction and where it's set with that moon and the palm trees right on the balcony. Oh my God.
and the mountains in the background, and
Yes. Yes.
it's a
Perfect.
because they're down in Rio de Janeiro, so it's
That's right.
a Rio is a very beautiful and
Romantic.
romantic place.
Hmm.
um so it's the
Yeah.
perfect setting for
Yeah.
a love to blossom.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a
And is
lovely
that
moment.
where
And
is that where the famous scene, is that the first double cigarette lighting? I'm trying to think.
I think it happens earlier, but it's not. It's more in the effect
Okay.
of like, here's a cigarette for you. But he starts to do the two cigarettes, gives her one, she starts smoking,
I don't,
and
maybe it's just me, but that 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 scene to me is like the first time of a true, it's almost like an engagement. It's like a true connection. We're now part of each other. I know
right,
in our day and age it seems like, oh, well, no. But I mean at that time it really was a grand gesture of we're now one in a weird
right.
way. The double cigarette.
and
Yeah.
and it's a very iconic moment, having two cigarettes, lighting both, and then passing off one, so that way
Yes.
you both have the same connection, as you say.
Yes. Yes.
And now they're both as one. And this
Yeah.
happens a few times throughout, so it's their little sort of like moment for each other, where they understand each other, and this is
Yeah.
their
Share a
their
cigarette.
moment together. Yep, exactly.
Mhm.
And that kind
Mhm.
of puts us into where I want to go next with this, and that's these iconic scenes
Okay.
throughout the movie that um, really showcase the characters'
Mhm.
motivations, their styles, their feels. We've kind of touched on a few, but there are a few others that, as the movie progresses, we start to see the battle between Mrs. Henry Vale and Charlotte, because later on, after the cruise, Charlotte has become this confident, independent
Yeah.
woman. She
Yes.
comes home. She's afraid to come home because she knows exactly what things are going to be like and how Mrs. Henry Vale is
Yes.
going to be. And of course, she's right. As soon as she walks in, why are you wearing that dress? Take that dress off. All of a sudden, the berating, the
Right.
punching, the
Belittling.
um,
Mhm.
belittling just comes out of nowhere, as she was expecting. But because Charlotte has become more confident in herself, she's able to kind of stop and block most of it. She can still get under her skin a little bit,
Mhm.
but she's able to combat her a little bit more.
Mhm.
This does not bode well with Miss Henry Vale,
No.
and she throws
No.
herself down the stairs,
Oh my god, is that the
breaks
most,
her
talk
leg.
about Freudian passive aggressive, "I'm not gonna get my way, so here you go. Yep, I'm gonna hurt
Exactly.
myself." Mhm. Yeah.
And of course, this comes right when she's having a little party with the other Vales who have come to visit.
Of
Now,
course.
none of the other Vales, and these are more stiff upper lip,
Mm.
conservative family
Boston.
members, haven't
Mhm.
seen Miss Charlotte yet since she's had her
Mm-mm.
transformation. And
Yeah.
one thing too that I forgot is there is a uh, Paul Hyde-Reed's character gives her Camille's and calls her Camille.
Bring
So that
yes.
is a rotating theme that happens, where now she's always ordering Camille's to put on her as a corsage, as a brooch, as just to
Yes.
remind, as a reminder. And
Near her
also,
heart.
like, near her heart, it also reminds her about the confidence she has and what she felt, and
Mhm.
has this gorgeous black chiffon style dress.
Oh, it
Um,
is gorgeous, yeah. It is I
That
mean, that's another thing we could go on for days about, the wardrobe. I
wardrobe
meant to
is
look that up. Oh my god, and I do miss those days. I must have been born in the wrong generation. I miss the days of actually really dressing up for even going out to dinner or, having a family party, people really dressing to the nines. I love that kind of stuff. I really do. Was it Edith Head?
exactly. No, but it was
Okay.
another famous person from that time period, Ori Kelly.
Okay.
Um, he did a lot of these style of pictures in
Okay.
terms of kind of very similar to Edith Head in the way of making gorgeous gowns for the
Yeah.
actresses.
Yeah.
Um, just really knowing how to accentuate um, these performances.
Mhm.
And yeah, this is no exception. All the costume design for both for all the characters, pretty much.
Oh.
I mean,
Oh,
even Mrs. Henry Vale gets some more
beautiful.
beautiful outfits than what Charlotte was privy to before.
She was, but you know what was so interesting about it? Because there's one scene where the shot is over Mrs. Vale's kind of shoulder, and her arm, her hand, and sleeve is up like against the bed, and she's looking at Charlotte, who's dressed beautifully, and she's got these gorgeous like jewels in the sleeve and lace, but it's very much of a different time.
Yes.
She's stuck in a different time, clearly,
Yep.
psychologically, emotionally, and pretty literally with her clothing. She's like this queen that would have been, in the early part of the 20th
And
century, you know?
you can see it also in the set designs that
Yes.
the bedrooms are all set up just so, and
Yes. Yeah.
uh, only Charlotte's room she was able to kind of make it her own, but it was still
Later.
had that. It was still very much Mrs. Vale's. This is what I want. This is my house. This is how I want it.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, back
Yeah.
to when she's heading down the stairs to see the
Mhm.
family. The
Mhm.
family all of a sudden is like, "What? What happened to
Yeah.
Charlotte?" They're very much like taken aback, but also you see a few of them who still have this conservative, like disapproval look on their faces,
Absolutely.
and and it's
Mhm.
and especially when she tries to do things differently than what Mrs. Henry Vale would do, and they're like, but she won't like that. It's like, well, it's about time
Yeah.
we do something about it, and that's
Like
when
put a
she
fire in
goes,
the fireplace?
start the
Thank
fire in
you.
the fireplace,
Right.
and but then but then as the time goes through the party, they all seem to kind of let their hair
Oh,
down a little bit more, and
they
they
do.
seem to all have
They
a
do.
decent time, even the ones that were very much like they were still leaving a bit kind of cautious, like more afraid of what Mrs. Henry Vale is going to do to them
Mhm.
later. So it's like
Yeah.
they can't fully enjoy themselves, but they were able to in that moment because
Absolutely.
Charlotte was just like, we're here, let's enjoy ourselves, have some drinks, we're family, let's just enjoy ourselves, not sit
Right.
around just playing bridge
Right, right. Yeah,
and
and
being stuffy about it.
her niece had kind of come around at that point too, and was really, like, loving the fact that she has come out and is looking good, so their relationship is a little bit better at that point.
Well, and Charlotte has no animosity to her niece with what she did to
No,
her previously. She's
no.
like she's able to say like, I understand, I forgive you,
Let bygones be
and
bygones,
we can be
exactly.
friends again. We can now be
Right,
friends because we both understand each other now.
right.
And yeah, so it's a
Right.
very touching moment too, where it's like
Yeah.
you get a nice character arc for um, June,
Mhm.
the niece,
The niece.
where she can
Yeah,
finally be like, I was wrong. I can't believe it. And
yeah.
um,
And I think she does actually apologize at one point.
I think
She
she
really
does too
does, yeah.
because she's like, I realized that I was in the wrong, and that I think also allows for Charlotte to be able to forgive.
Forgive her,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so now we start heading towards the big battle between
Oh,
Mrs.
boy.
Henry Vale and Charlotte.
Now,
Um,
I just have to say, Gladys Cooper, uh, for those people who will remember her from things later, like The Twilight Zone and all this stuff, this woman, talk about a powerful performance that's understated, but cuts through you because she's so real. and so horrifying. I mean, the things that she says so matter of factly are just devastating. And she doesn't have to do a thing about it. She just is who she is. I mean,
Exactly.
she's so brilliant.
Well, and
So
nobody
brilliant.
will fight her for it. So because she's the head
No.
of the house, and she's of that, as you say, she's of that time period where she still
Mhm.
has those morals and values. She may not think she's doing something wrong, but she feels like she's trying to mold her daughter into what she feels she should be,
Right.
um, and that caused the problem in the first place. And now
Mhm.
that her daughter has become her own person and making
Mhm.
her own decisions and not letting her mother steamroll her,
Mhm.
this causes quite the locking of horns between the two of them. And
It does. Yeah.
Charlotte has been told to not take the bait, as it were, and just let her
Dr.
mother
Jackwith
say her
says
thing.
don't. Mhm. That's right.
But unfortunately, as many of us do at times, we can be pushed too far.
Mhm.
And
But before
Charlotte
we go
says,
to where I think you're gonna go,
"Yes, yes."
there's one scene with her mom that I hadn't remembered that I thought, "Oh, there's real promise. This is the most positive." I was getting hopeful. And that's after she announces that she's gonna be engaged to this other fellow,
Right.
right? And that seems to her mother even says, "Well, you're not gonna listen to me anyways. You always do what you want." And there's humor in that, and I thought, "Oh my god, okay, good."
But
Mm-mm.
it's also
Yes,
because
yes,
that this family is a good family to
exactly.
connect the veils to, not because Charlotte is happy, but because they can connect the families together,
Ex
which are two
That's it.
prominent families.
So in a
That's
way,
her
she still
only
has control. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. And
Mhm,
then she decides to break off the engagement because she's not happy. They know, she knows, he knows, I think too,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
it's just not it there's no point in being unhappy
Mm-mm.
with each other if it's just going to
No,
cause, they can be
yeah,
friends. They seem to have a
right,
good connection and
right,
friendship wise, but not in romantic. Um,
right.
and then the final battle
Ooh.
where Charlotte tells her mother that she's called off the engagement and she's going to be get a cat and a parrot and just live the blissful life of a spinster. And
Mhm.
then that causes her mother to go into this tirade of like, you've
Ooh.
been a shame to the family for years. You never knew what you wanted. Why would you do this to us? You've ruined everything.
You've
And
ruined
then
me, you've made my life miserable. It's horrifying. It's really just
it's a
so
very,
ugly.
very cut and dry, ugly
Mhm,
confrontation,
mhm,
which causes Charlotte to be pushed over to
mhm.
finally say, "You didn't want me to be born. You never wanted me. You never loved me."
And I didn't
And
wanna be
then
born.
I didn't want to be born. And this causes Mrs. Henry Vale to have a heart attack and die.
Quickly.
And quickly.
Like,
It's
that
a
was fast.
very like a very
Yeah.
but I mean it could happen. She's a very frail woman still. She may seem like a strong-willed woman, but she's older, and this can cause a problem to
Mhm.
happen right away, especially if you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this causes Charlotte to think that she's caused her mother's death. And now she's guilty. Her mother is still kind of won in that respect of like, I now made you guilty.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna go, was this just the acme, the tip top of somebody being the most passive aggressive to say, "Oh, I'll teach you a lesson. I'm gonna croak and give you a lifetime of guilt for this." You
And
know?
that was going to be one of my questions, was
Oh.
because there's talks about like, did it happen because she just had the heart attack, or did she sit there and say, well, if you're going to do this to me, then I'm going to kill myself.
I you
Pretty much, I'm
know?
going to make myself have a heart attack. I mean, we already saw her throw herself down the staircase, so she's
Mhm,
not above
mhm,
like, well, I'll
mm-mm.
teach you.
Clearly,
Um,
the woman has mental health issues. Clearly,
right,
the mother is mentally not right. So, it could be a combination of the 2 things of saying, "I'm gonna just for that, what can I do? I'm old and weak, but there's one thing I got on you, guilt." Boom. But it could all
exactly.
be done subconsciously. Who knows?
Well, and that's it. We don't. it's not going to be explained to us why.
No.
So it's up to us to kind of decipher what we feel at that moment, and
So
so
what
it
do you
can go
think?
either way. Uh I in my way, I want to think that Charlotte has won by with the sword fighting, that she's finally
Okay.
taken down the monster, and she has the heart attack of like, I can't believe this, but it still causes the effect of her being
Yeah.
guilty of like
Right.
having this happen. So, but I can see the other argument, the fact
Yeah.
that maybe she was being vindictive and said, "Well, I'll show you," and there we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, she didn't get around to changing her will to make sure that Charlotte didn't get the fortune. So she does get the fortune in the end, which helps her be able to start doing things
Yeah.
on her own the way she wants it to.
Yes.
Um, but this causes her to go back to Cascade to
Hmm.
try to rid herself of this guilt. And she meets Tina, who Tina is the daughter of Paul Henreid's character Jerry.
Hmm.
And you see this again, dowdy,
Hmm.
unkept little girl of 12 who just looks so
Hmm.
miserable and just
Hmm.
quiet, and you can see that she's very much saddened and brought
She
feels
won't.
put
She won't
upon in
eat.
this world.
She won't. She won't
She
be
won't
social. She won't eat. She cries in the middle of the night. And how did so Jerry found Dr. Jackwith through
through.
Charlotte because she
Yes.
knew that, okay. So that's how Tina
Yep.
ended up there. Okay.
Well,
Right.
and there's a scene early on when they're on the boat and she sees the picture, and she automatic right away sees the unwanted
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling that the daughter feels in that picture, the way her facial
Right.
expressions are.
Hmm.
And when Charlotte makes her appearance and sees Tina, she starts
Hmm.
to feel like, I can do something.
Hmm.
I understand what she's going through. I can help.
Hmm.
And so she asks
Hmm.
Dr. Jackwith if she can help. And we start seeing Tina come out of her
Hmm.
shell a little bit here and there. And then it comes
Yeah.
to light that Jerry finds out that Charlotte has been helping her daughter in what might be a very unconventional way, especially when she brings Tina back to her house in Boston to try to rehabilitate.
Hmm.
Um, but it's very helpful in that respect because
Hmm.
she does know what it's like to be an unwanted child, what it's like to
Hmm.
go through this, and try to help her become herself and get it, because she's still at a young age where she is able to start getting the confidence and not being, and so it's not going to be too late. Like Charlotte was really late to try to figure this out, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
But she
it
does
is a
have
very
Dr.
touchy
Jack.
scene.
Yo, it is. But she does have Dr. Jackwith ultimately his blessing on taking her to her home, even after learning that, because he didn't know that Charlotte knew Tina's dad, Jerry.
Exactly.
But after
So she's
that,
on
and they have a little battle, but not a big one, but just like a little, I don't
more like
know.
why you should have told me about this, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
agreed to this. And
Yeah.
um but so she's on probation, as she
Yes. Right.
says.
Right.
um and then we get towards the end of the film where Jerry is brought in with Dr. Jackwith, and Dr. Jackwith has told Jerry that this place is a place of sadness and mean spiritedness, and you don't expect to see anything. And they walk in, and it's like this big party is happening of happiness
He
and
not only is the
gaiety. And
fireplace going not only is the fireplace going that was forbidden, but people are roasting hot dogs in the fireplace in
exactly,
the living room.
they're just all having the most wonderful time in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Charlotte sees Jerry,
Oh,
and they have
yeah.
that reconnection there. She calls down for Tina, and Tina has been dressed up in a lovely dress, hair's been done,
Mhm.
glasses are off. She looks like a very happy 12-year-old,
Child.
which
Yeah.
makes Jerry go, "Oh my goodness, this transformation. I'm so glad
Mhm.
this has happened." And um,
Yeah.
so
My
we
favorite
not
part of that scene, though, my favorite part is when the little girl runs down the stairs, hugs her dad, and Charlotte is standing on the stairs above them, and, and he actually says, "Oh, I love you," and then looks up at Charlotte and says, "I love you."
I love
But
you.
yes, but, I mean, it was kind of like saying it to his daughter, but also really something he's wanted to say to
Exactly.
Charlotte. Yeah.
Because he can't let the cat out of the bag
No.
that they love each other because his daughter is right there. So
Right.
um, they send Tina off to go roast some hot dogs
Yeah.
while
Have fun with Dr. Jackwith.
while Charlotte and Jerry go off into the den or the sitting room,
Library. Hmm.
and we have the lovely. We're at the finale, pretty much,
Hmm.
and they discuss like what can we do next. Like we can't be together. We can't. Um,
Well, he even,
this is
yeah, right. He even says to her, look, you know what? I'm going to just take Tina.
yep,
And she's hurt. And he says, well, I can't do this. I keep taking from you. And it's not fair. I can't give anything back, meaning that, yeah, I can't because I'm married, you know.
and then to which she says, you have given. You gave me Tina. You gave me
Exactly.
my confidence. I mean, she doesn't say it in all those words, but you can hear it in her voice about how like you have. You may
There
not
was
think
something,
you have.
yes, yes. There was, to take is sometimes a way to give. That's
Exactly.
what she says to him. Yeah.
And this brings the crux of kind of what the movie is about with a different form of happiness. She's like, you've
Hmm.
given me the happiness of
Hmm.
being able to be myself and also do something for somebody else because I was
Hmm.
able to be there for Tina when her mother wasn't there for her.
Hmm.
And they decide on a sort of mutual agreement of like, you can come back to visit.
Hmm.
I will be here. This is your home. This is Tina's home. Feel free when you need to come here. So it's in a way, they can still be together, but just not in the romantic final sense of the word. But it's
Hmm.
a different form of happiness that Charlotte can have that she
Hmm.
wasn't without having to say, I can never see you again. Now,
Hmm.
they may never see each other again,
I don't like that
but
ending, Ben. You know I
no,
don't like that ending, Ben.
I know. But I want to think that, and we come to the probably what is, well, they share the cigarette again.
Yes.
He
One more
does
time.
the final
Oh,
cigarette.
the final cigarette, and there's one before that. I'll let you do the iconic last line, but before that, she says this is a way of, because she never got married and she's not intending to get married to anybody. So therefore she's not going to have children. But she said, this is a way that I can kind of feel like, in a way, we have a child together.
Right,
And then he refers to them, she said, your child. And he says, no, our child,
right.
which is that's like, boom. That's,
And
yeah,
I know
hit you in the
it's a
heart.
very that scene is a very powerful scene because it's not only just wrapping up what might be, but also
Hmm.
like giving each other permission for
Hmm.
like, we can still see each other. We can still take care of Tina. She's the important thing, but that keeps our love together, even though we
Hmm.
can't be together.
Right.
And they share the cigarette again. Paul Henreid lights up two
Lights it up.
cigarettes, passes it
Mhm.
over. The Max Steiner score is swelling in the background, and he asks her, "And will you be happy, Charlotte?" And she says the final iconic line, which is such a good line. It is one of the
Mm,
best lines I think ever written. And she says, "Oh, Jerry, don't let's ask for the moon. We have the stars."
there you
And
go.
that's the final moment,
Yeah.
meaning that we don't need to have everything to be happy. We have something that makes us
Hmm.
happy. And it may not be the thing we
Right.
really, really want in the long run, but we have something.
Exactly. Exactly. And I looked that up because I'm thinking, I know what it meant to me, and I wanted to know what it meant to you. And then I was going around thinking what, film scholars would think. And pretty much, I think what we both said is what is the common, idea of this. And that is basically the moon would be that we could be married and have a family together. That's not
Right,
possible right now until, you know, uh, his wife either passes or grants him a divorce. But in the
right.
meantime, they have a pretty good setup. So it's looking pretty good because I think, who knows? They can have romance in the future. Maybe that will happen. Maybe they will get married. Either way, what's cool about it is Charlotte's happy. And that means she doesn't
Exactly.
need the marriage. She doesn't need her mother. She's on her own. She's
On her
self-sufficient.
own. Yep, she's self-sufficient. Uh, she's happy. This is what she wants. This is what she
Yeah,
knows she can have, which does make her happy.
right.
And especially if she can see Tina and him. But it's not like in the way of like, this isn't, I want to just specify that this is not what one might consider, what's the word I'm looking for? An affair. Like they're
Mm-mm.
not having big relations with each other. They did have a kiss with each other, but that was only a moment of Rio, the moon, circumstances of that way.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
they're not constantly getting together and
No,
hiding from the way. So it's a very
no, no.
unconventional relationship, but still
Yeah.
there's that love and companionship that they
Mhm.
both give to
Mhm.
each other.
Mhm.
Um, and then with Tina, knowing that she's the unwanted child of the mother would probably be like, fine, whatever.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, I think so,
I
and I
don't
think that
I don't
gives
have to
right,
deal with my daughter, so I can do what I want to do. And
right.
um,
And this gives Charlotte a chance, I think, too, to be the mother that she never had,
right. And I
which
think
is a
she says
wonderful
that.
kind of
I
karmic
think
thing.
she
She does
mentions
kind of
something
say
like
that.
that. And it's another element of her happiness is now she can help
Mhm.
turn and steer Tina to being her own independent woman, uh,
Yeah.
knowing that
Yeah.
she didn't have that growing up, but now Tina has that chance, and I can be the one to help,
To give it to her. Yeah.
which
There
gives
there's
her
a
also
lightness. There's just a beautiful lightness that's come over the house since, of course, the mother has gone and Charlotte's
right.
taken over. Um, but, it's interesting go ahead with what you're gonna say because there was something that you said that, there's not really no, there's not an affair because he is a very chivalrous, you know, honorable fellow. He's not a cad. Um, but I read something there was, like, speculation with the car scene, the one comic part of
Oh, yeah, yes,
the
yes.
movie where they go backwards over okay. And they're kind of stranded there in the middle of the night. And many people said, "Well, because of the Hays Code or this and that, we're thinking that they might have consummated their relationship, but then, but I don't know.
I
I
don't
didn't see
think
that.
so because
I don't either."
he does put the covers on her and gives her a little kiss, but I saw it as more of like a bless you, you've done so much, and he's not gonna
And I'll take care of you.
he'll
Yeah.
take care of her, but he's not being it's not in a taking advantage way, I
No,
don't
not at
think,
all.
at
No,
all.
no, not at all.
And
But it was
I
interesting to
think
read that.
people could read into that, especially because you don't know what's happened at this little house that they take refuge.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I saw it as like very innocent. Both
I
of
did too.
them
Yeah.
just needed a place to crash while the rain stopped, and
And they were
um,
stranded.
exactly.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah,
totally
I
stranded.
mean,
Yeah. That was yeah. But I thought that was interesting that because 'cause I'd never thought that either. I'm in in your camp. I thought, "No, I just saw that as a loving kind of, I'm gonna take care of you and I love you," but
and
who
it's
knows?
not that kind of picture too. So it's it's not that type of movie where that's an important role, and you can see that at the end too, where Charlotte is like, I don't need to have the romance.
Mhm.
I just need to have almost like I just need to have a close friend, somebody who I
Mhm.
can lean on, somebody who
Mhm.
we can both make each other better than what we are,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
as opposed to
Yeah.
knowing that she's not going to be married and or have her own
Right.
child,
Right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's such a lovely it's a lovely ending. It's a lovely film all around, and
It is.
it it just always warms my heart when
Me
I
too.
see it,
Me
and
too. And it's so
uh,
wonderfully fast-paced, beautifully directed because it moves along. There's never a slow moment. There's never empty space. I mean, it is a classic in that way that it just boom, boom, boom moves along.
exactly, and um, at the time it was a really big success.
Yeah,
As mentioned earlier, it garnered another Oscar nomination for Bette
Miss Davis.
Davis,
Hmm.
um,
And
and And
Gladys
Gladys
Cooper.
Cooper got her first
Mhm.
out of 3 nominations. Um, and everyone in it is just so good. There's not a false
Nope.
performance in this film.
Nope.
Everyone is very genuine, down to
Yep.
earth. They hit all the right notes. But of course, it's
Absolutely.
Betty. It's Betty who holds the entire film together. Because if
Oh my
you
God.
could you could see this film going into a completely different direction with a different character, a different actress, or somebody not up to that task of being.
Yes.
Um,
It would have
and
been
many
it would have been different. Yeah. But
and
she's
many
excellent.
women and many actresses of that time period wouldn't touch something like that because they wouldn't want to be perceived as dowdy or
Mhm.
unkept. And Betty loved those roles. That she plays
Mhm.
so many where she just
Mhm.
doesn't matter what she looks like. If that's the character, that's the character. She goes on to do Mr. Skeffington, where she plays
I love that
um, a
film.
vain
Oh,
woman who wants to always look beautiful and young,
and young.
only to only to end up just making it worse for herself and becoming this like older. Even though she's trying to
Monster.
be young, she still looks old, and
Mhm.
um, and that's the point of that movie. And then in of Human Bondage, you see her just spiral down into this like ugh looking
Mhm.
drugged alcoholic mess, and
Yes.
a lot of actresses didn't want to touch that, especially those who were beauties of the time and who this
Mhm.
was her. They didn't want to tarnish their
Mhm.
um, and make their fans think, oh, that she's not looking this way. So Betty was perfect
Yeah.
and right for these roles. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is
Oh
another
my
one where
God.
she just really
Yes.
just goes to town in terms of her makeup. Uh,
She
Not
was like the
afraid. She's not
consummate.
afraid.
No, not afraid at all, which to me is the sign of a true artist. Because
Exactly.
yes, she could look stunning and beautiful. She could. She did in Now Voyager. But you're right. There's no fear. It's whatever is right for the character. Whatever's right for the
Exactly.
story, she dove in. And there were a lot that didn't do that. Curiously, I read something that the person they wanted initially for this was Irene Dunn.
Yes, I was just about to mention something about that. And again, I mean, I
And I
love
love
Irene
her.
Dunn.
So do I.
She can do both comic and dramatic
Hmm.
roles and very well.
Hmm.
I just don't.
I can't imagine it.
sh- I don't think she could pull off being dowdy, and she's more of the beauty than Betty is in terms of that respect, where she just
Hmm.
it would take a lot. It's like when Grace Kelly, who's beautiful all around, tries to be dowdy and homely like in The Country Girl. She still looks
Yeah.
beautiful. It just
Yeah.
doesn't.
And I also,
There's
yeah. And I like Grace Kelly a lot, and I think she did a lot of good work. I don't think she had the depth that either Irene Dunn or Bette Davis had as an actor or an
right.
artist. But I mean, she did do fun work, and she was gorgeous to look at, and did some fine work with Alfred Hitchcock. Um, so I can't even imagine that, frankly, personally. But
But
I think
it's
Irene
also
Dunn
it.
could have pulled it off, but nothing is like the depth of
Yeah,
Bette
I
Davis in this.
the
I mean, nothing.
the the way that the film is written and the way that the character
Yeah,
of Charlotte is at the beginning is just you can't go over the top with it. And
no,
she hits almost close to going over the top, but she just hits the right moment and then pulls back and then just breaks
yeah,
your heart with that
it does.
moment. And it's
Yeah,
just hard for me
yeah,
to think of anybody else doing this particular
I
role
agree.
because
And she
she's
fought
able
for it.
to yeah,
She fought
exactly.
for it. So,
And
yeah,
yeah,
it's my favorite.
it's one of my favorite performances of hers, even more so than
Mm,
All About Eve and Betty, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which are great performances. But in
mhm.
terms of the nuance and subtlety that Betty could do with some roles, this is a very restrained performance on her part, where
It
she could have
absolutely
gone
is.
over the top, but doesn't, because this is
Absolutely.
what one might consider a soap opera picture,
It could
because
be.
it does hit a lot of those themes.
Mhm,
But the nice
mhm.
thing is that everybody in the film is very grounded and the direction is very grounded. Even Max Steiner's score is not extreme in the respect
No, no.
it
It
helps you
fits.
feel those moments.
It does.
Um,
It does. Yeah,
and uh,
yeah.
everything just works so well. And I want people to see this movie because
I do too.
it's such a wonderful film, just romantically.
Hmm.
There's so many iconic moments and scenes that just really just get to you.
Yeah.
Um, and also the fantasy about going on the cruise, meeting that person who you have a connection with, going to Rio de Janeiro, and just having a lovely fantasy. It's a great
It,
fantasy
it
film
is.
as well,
It's
just
a
because
great
it's what
escape right now. It's a
it's
great
it's,
escape.
uh,
Even
it's a lovely
the sets.
escapism.
Yes.
It's perfect for that, and you just can't go wrong with it.
No, you
uh,
can't. Yeah, I would
and
encourage everyone to watch this. You will love it. You won't be sorry.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
beautiful.
pretty easy to find, to watch. You can watch it
Hmm.
on you can get it as a Criterion edition on
Hmm.
DVD.
Hmm.
It's available on Apple TV. You can find it there.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it'll be
Even
streaming on
Tubi, I think you can get it too.
Tubi. I think
Hmm.
HBO Max, because they
Yes.
have a lot of Turner Classic Movies films. I
Hmm.
think it's been prominent there at times. So if you
Definitely.
can find this, I
Hmm.
strongly recommend it.
I
Especially if you
second that.
haven't seen. It's also a good film if you haven't been introduced to Bette Davis yet. It's a good film
Oh,
to start
start.
with, because it's
Yes.
not her usual
Right.
big boisterous performance. It's a very subtle
Right.
performance.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's a beautiful film. It's a delight, and it makes me feel good every time I see it for so
and
many reasons.
also, as we start to
Mhm.
wrap up our conversation,
Yeah.
it brings up the film is not an easy film to watch by any means, because it brings up a lot of uncomfortable moments and questions and ideas that you leave with at the end of the film.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
what will happen? I think we were going to discuss, what do we think happens
Yes.
afterwards?
Okay.
Because there are so many questions, that because it is an ambiguous ending. It's like,
Yeah.
we have
Mhm.
the stars. That's the end. It's like, do they meet with each other afterward? Does Tina continue to thrive? Does Charlotte continue to help people at Cascade? Maybe she gets work at Cascade to be a volunteer, because she is donating money to help more wings get added and
Yes.
more help.
Right. Right.
She's a philanthropist now, and
Right.
she has a
And I think
purpose now in
also
her life.
absolutely, and with Dr. Jackwith, there was another thing that I read really quickly. I'm not going to take too much time, but they said, well, it could be ambiguous at the end too, because now are Dr. Jackwith and Charlotte going to get together? And I said, oh no, I never
No,
picked up on any romance. To me, he was like the perfect father figure for her.
right. The father she never had, really, or the mother she
Exactly.
never had.
The
And
parent that she never had. Yeah.
but there's also a strong friendship connection that has happened there.
Totally.
So it's like,
Yeah.
they're not going to ruin that by.
Uh-uh.
Plus,
No,
I never felt that any romantic relationship
I didn't either.
feelings between the two of them. It's always friendship, fatherly,
Yes.
supportive,
Yes.
and
Yes.
yeah, I think they work together. I want to say that they work together, and she becomes a
I
main part
agree.
of Cascade,
I
on top
agree.
of
Yeah.
Paul Henreid's character Jerry and Tina coming to visit every so often when they can,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, to give that little, like, pick me up, that
Yeah.
Charlotte would need. But Charlotte has her happiness now, and I think she continues being the
Mhm.
philanthropist, being the help, and
She has a full life, and she is completely self-sufficient. Um, the ending could have gone a bunch of different ways. Of course, in my little fantasy world right now today, I would, yes, of course, like to see that, Jerry's wife grants him the divorce because she can't she's unhappy, and he comes to live there
right,
full time, and all's good. Maybe his other daughter moves in with him too. I don't know.
right.
But, that's my
Yeah,
little fantasy.
that's a good, you know, it's
Yeah.
that's why it's open to interpretation, you
Yeah.
know. As
Yeah.
I unfortunately said earlier, it's like, maybe they never see each other again,
That's
but she
possible too.
knows that she still has his memories, and has he can be there with her, the camellias, and
Amelia's, yeah. Yeah.
plus the fact that she's doing good work and helping, and
Mhm.
that's her purpose now.
That's
And
right.
we all
She has
look for
fully
some sort of
blossomed.
purpose. Right.
Yeah.
And now she can help others blossom.
Exactly. Exactly. It's come around full circle. Full circle. Yeah, it's lovely. But if anyone out there just loves great sets, great costumes, great performances, i- in a great story, this is the film.
Glor- Glorious black and white,
Oh, I love it.
and
It's so
um,
rich. Mm.
it is one of the best films of the 1940s, I would say,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Yeah, I agree.
definitely one of the most romantic
Oh, yeah.
films.
Oh, yeah.
I would put that towards the top, especially now with Valentine's Day approaching.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
And I see you're
it's
wearing Valentine's colors. I wore my
right,
red.
right,
We're in the
right,
Valentine mode. Mm-hmm.
exactly,
Yep.
and yeah,
Yep.
so it's a beautiful film, and I just can't recommend it enough.
I agree. So if you're looking for a romantic Valentine's night, grab a bottle of champagne or whatever you like and find this movie and you won't be sorry. You won't be
Exactly.
sorry. Mm-mm.
Well, that gets us wrapped up, Danielle. It was so lovely to have you back again
Thank you,
to
Dan. It's
discuss this
always
this
fun.
film, and we'll have you back again in no time. I'm sure we'll find some more things to discuss. We have so
Love it.
many films out there to discuss
Oh, I
that I
love it.
want people to see, and this
Yeah.
is just one tip of the iceberg, um,
Yeah.
and
There's so
especially
many.
celebrating the performances of Bette Davis.
Oh,
Um,
there's so
you
many
can't
more
go
Bette
wrong.
Davis films we could
Exactly.
talk about.
Uh,
Yeah.
but no, thank you for joining me today. This has been a
Thank
blast as
you.
always,
Thank
and I look
you.
forward to seeing you the next time.
Thank you so much, Ben. Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Real Beans. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow and reach more fellow film and coffee lovers. You can catch all of our episodes on your favorite podcast platform, on our YouTube channel, and for even more insights, recommendations, and everything films, head over to realbeans.com. Want to support our show and help us keep brewing up great content? Visit realbeans.com/support.